So there are some reports of there being 30,000 people marching for Tommy in London yesterday. 25,000, 20,000, 30,000, but certainly a massive, massive crowd, unprecedented in our history. And there was nothing about it on the mainstream media. There was nothing about it on the BBC. If there's a Muslim march or some sort of, Hamas rally or whatever with like a few hundred people, they would be all over it. But it's interesting how the focus from the media has changed. Because they used to completely ignore the People's Austerity Marches, for example, the People's Assembly, and Owen Jones and all those types. They always used to meet together and march against austerity against the coalition government, and they always used to ignore them. And they used to be hundreds of thousands strong. Well, not hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands. Now, they wouldn't ignore them, because those marches would become anti-Brexit marches, so they would pay attention to them, because now they've switched allegiances, now they've switched sides. That's evident in the media now. You can see the media will cover the austerity marches, will cover the People's Assembly, but it won't cover the things it calls far right, unless there's violence, in which case it's obviously the far right that started it. Even though the video of the police milling about, walking around, pushing people, they were using kettling tactics, they were using all their classic war tactics to aggravate the situation as much as possible. They knew there was a bunch of hooligans there. They knew the Football Lads Association, were going to be unruly and badly behaved. And it was only a short thing it was only a small thing for them to just go around pushing people and starting a massive fight, turning it into a riot. They were riot police. They were ready for it. They were ordered to cause it. And in the end, only 4 people got arrested, apparently. So that's not actually that bad, is it? When people go around saying that, 20,000 Tommy supporters, and they're all neo-Nazis, all giving massive salutes, all beating up the police and throwing things. And then you've got the patriotic idiots that that want to be celebrating the trooping of the colour, etc., that don't particularly, that feel the FreeTommy protest is a bit of bad taste or something. You've got those patriotic idiots that say, it's disgusting throwing things at the police. Well, no, it's disgusting the police going around pushing people, actually. It's disgusting going around starting it. It's disgusting tactics. You can see it plain as day on the video. In the day, plain. But these people seem to want to be on the side of the police because they believe that, being against the establishment makes you a leftist, or makes you somehow one of the enemy, or makes you a Marxist or something, or being angry or showing an emotion makes you a leftist or a Marxist. It doesn't. There was an amazing speech yesterday by Geert Wilders. He managed to get into the country, he walked onto the stage with his security detail, he gave a historic speech. It was completely ignored again by the mainstream media. It's just like a historic moment in the history of this country and the world, especially when he said that the British people were called Tommies, and that they liberated the Netherlands from the Nazis, and that he's honouring the liberation of his country. How is he a far-right neo-Nazi? Geert Wilders' speech was pretty much about stopping Nazis. And then you've got the mainstream media and alternative media, etc., all just calling him Nazi. It's ridiculous. But they jumped the shark. They jumped the shark in Poland when they tried to say that 60,000 people protesting were neo-Nazis. What, in Poland? The place that resisted the Nazis. The place that Hitler tried to invade. But then they fought back. And you have the nerve to call them neo-Nazis. But it's not all perfect. All these alliances are not perfect. As usual, the Football Lads Association is an unruly bunch. They are very misogynistic, as you can imagine. They are very homophobic. According to a live stream yesterday with John Aya, who is a mixed-race girl who is friends with Kaylin and friends with Milo and friends with all the people on the so-called alt-right, far-right, whatever. But they're not far-right, are they? The actual far-right, the actual ethno-nationalists aren't welcome. The actual people that go around giving Nazi salutes, etc., there are 1 or 2 people in a crowd of 30,000. How can you represent the whole crowd in that? How can you say that the whole crowd are neo-Nazis? They all believe in this behaviour. They all believe in this same ideology. They're not. There are many patriots in there. There are many people there that were just there for the trooping of the colour at the same time, but then they went on to see the FreeTommy thing because they see injustice happening. Ignore the cockerel. So in that video, she was expressing her reluctance to basically go along with the Football Lads Association and any of those groups again, because apparently they were shouting homophobic abuse to her friend Kaylin, who was actually Tommy's best friend and acquaintance, and they worked together, and they, these people, they want to expose the crimes that are happening. They want to expose the Muslim grooming gang crimes in the country. But what I think should be done more is we need to expose the media propaganda, because the media propaganda are the ones that called the Muslim Pakistani rapists in Oxford men. Remember that? No one would call them Oxford men. Huddersfield men, Oxford men, Telford men, blah, 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 blah. They're all British nationals, aren't they? Of course they are. They've only been in this country for a few years or a few months. If they come from Afghanistan or Eritrea, what's the difference? They're all British nationals, aren't they? And just because I don't like terrorists coming into my country doesn't make me a white supremacist. And just because people are going around marching and thousands and one or two of them throw things at the police doesn't mean they all are vandals and thugs. But the left will use those incidents to apply to the whole crowd because of guilt by association. So they will say, why are you hanging out with those? I've actually been told, why don't I condemn this behaviour? And then I said in the next tweet, well, I condemn this behaviour. It's like, who am I to condemn it? You know, why is it important that I condemn it? Of course I'm going to condemn it. But the fact remains we've got a country full of people that hate their Prime Minister, that resent what's happening, especially at G7 with Trump saying she's too politically correct. She phones him in the middle of the night and talks to him like a schoolmistress. What a stupid cow. Actually, that's an insult to cows. At least they produce milk. You might have noticed that I'm quite pissed off with this Prime Minister, and you might have noticed quite a lot of people in this country are quite pissed off. They're riled, and this is an expression of that anger. This is the first time people have got to express the anger since the referendum, and before that, since the financial crisis. No one got to say anything. And if the police keep behaving like they're behaving, then it will get more angry, it will turn into a riot, and we will lose all our freedoms, and there will be a civil war. And that is what I'm trying to avoid.